Hello, and welcome to the Kids Teaching Kids podcast. I'm your host, Neil Gulati, and today I'm joined by Olivia Ross, 7-year trumpet player, all-area qualifier, who is now currently the drum major of Frisco High School.
Hello.
So today I have collected a group of questions from middle schoolers that they have about high school band, and me and Olivia are going to be answering them for you. Let's begin. So, Olivia, how much of a time commitment is marching band, and how exactly does it work?
So marching band takes up your first semester, and there's rehearsals for everyone 4 out of 5 days of the week. So your Monday and Tuesday, if you're a wind player, so brass or woodwind, you'll rehearse Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. And then if you're a percussionist, you'll rehearse Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All the rehearsals are either before school or after school. But once marching season's over, there's not much of an after school or before school time commitment. It's really only during the first semester.
And so then how does band work after the first semester? Like, how does the marching season change, and what are you working on in the second semester?
So for the marching season, you're working on a show to perform at halftime at football games and at marching contests. And then after the first semester is over, you've got all your contests out of the way and you're done with all your football games and playoffs. You go into more of like a kind of how middle school band rolls, like concert season. So you do a Christmas concert, a winter concert, and then you'll do your UIL concert and contest, and then a spring concert as well. So it's kind of more laid back, less physical activity, more in just like sitting in a concert band and playing an instrument.
And so are all of the instruments from middle school allowed in high school band, and is it different for marching band?
Yeah, so every instrument that you'll play in middle school is the same in high school. The only instruments that aren't played for marching band are double reeds, oboe, and bassoon. And then for those players, most people they march saxophone, so either alto or tenor. But you are taught how to play that and you don't have to have any knowledge of doing it previously. Or on occasion, some go into the front ensemble percussion to play either the synth, which is like the piano, or like the rack, which is all the different specialty instruments.
So the next question we have is, how does the all-region process differ from middle school to high school? But I know you didn't do region in middle school, so I think I could do this question better. I think the process is overall relatively similar. It's merely the only thing that's really changing from middle school to high school is the level of competition and scale. So in middle school, you're going up against less schools, but in high school, you have more schools, likely more talented players who have significantly more hours of practice in, so you're probably going to just have to put in more time when you practice for your audition. The next question we have here is, does your practice time change from middle to high school, or is that a personal preference?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a personal preference. For me, it changed a little bit. I definitely got more into it for high school. With high school, you have marching band and concert band and a bunch of other opportunities, region and solo and ensemble, just like middle school. But when I got to high school, I started playing a lot more. I just had a deeper interest into it, so that changed my practice schedule. But I mean, it could relatively stay the same depending on where your mind and your priorities are at.
I think it's really interesting you say that, though, because I definitely know some kids who went from more practice in middle school and sort of cut down on their practice time in high school, and that's probably because high school, the workload of school levels up when you have more AP classes and you have all of these different higher level classes compared to middle school, so then you kind of have less time in the day. So I guess you just had a different style of where your priorities were.
Yeah, it just depends on how you manage your time. But I moved a lot in middle school, so I kind of was going, like, I was changing schools and band programs and everything, so I didn't really get, like, deep into music until high school, so that was just personal preference.
So the next question we have is, I haven't played an instrument before, but I want to join band in high school. Is this possible, and how will the process differ?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. We actually had a guy that graduated last year that started his freshman year. So it's easy to get into. It'll just take a little bit more of your extra time because obviously in middle school, your sixth graders, you have the class for beginner band where everyone together is learning their instrument. But if you wanted to join band in high school, you would have to put in for private lessons and spend extra time outside of the school day and the band period to learn that instrument on your own and get there. But it's definitely doable.
Yeah, I definitely don't think kids who are wanting to join high school should be discouraged, because from my knowledge, he was one of the most talented percussion players we had. We had, 10, 15 kids, and I'd say he was probably in the top 3 kids in our band. So I found it really interesting that someone who had 3 years of a disadvantage still managed to make it to the top. So I definitely don't think it's something that should be discouraging to you. So the next question that we have is, what if I want to switch my instrument when I join band in high school? So if you're playing, let's say, the flute in middle school and you wanted to switch to a saxophone or even a brass instrument in high school, how would that look like?
It would probably look about the same as if you were joining as a freshman, like joining band straight into as a freshman. You just need to put in the extra time and effort to learn that instrument and get proficient enough in it. But it's definitely something you can do. We actually currently have a player who marches alto saxophone, but she plays flute in concert season because she's proficient enough in both to be able to do that. So it really just depends on the person if they have the time and energy and commitment to put in the work to learn a new instrument.
So what does the leadership system look like in high school, and is that different than it was in middle school?
So in high school, I would say the leadership roles are a lot more involved than if there were some in middle school. Throughout marching season, we have 2 sets, or I guess throughout the whole year, we have 2 sets of leadership. The instructional roles and then the administrative roles. So the instructional roles are like your drum majors, your section leaders, and your squad leaders. Spend most of their time marching season teaching the new members and making sure the section is where they need to be visually and musically for the show that we're putting on. And then underneath that you have your administrative leaders, which help everything behind the scenes role. So you have your uniform team, equipment team, music team, and spirit team. Spirit/marketing, yeah. So like music team prints out music and gets all the folders ready for our summer band camp. And then uniform team does the same thing, but uniforms. Equipment team sets up rehearsals every morning and every afternoon with certain different equipment that we're going to need throughout the rehearsal. And then spirit team / marketing posts on the social medias and stuff like that, promotes the band in the community. Drum majors are who you see on the podiums conducting for the whole show, but other than that, they're instructional leaders, so teaching new members how to march and running rehearsals and everything like that. Under that, section leaders, you'll have for each section, and squad leaders under the section leaders doing the same thing. As it pertains to the applications, everybody that wants to be a leader, so going into sophomore year or above, they fill out an application of like 3 essay type questions and then have an interview with the band directors and circle which leadership roles they're interested in, and from there it's just chosen by the directors.
I think in my middle school specifically, I don't even recall having a leadership system for the students. I know we had the directors, obviously, and they sort of had their own, they had a head director and like a assistant director, but I don't think the students were necessarily involved other than the section leader, which would generally be the first chair player. So I think having the high school leadership where a lot more people get involved is really helpful, especially when it comes to building a community and a family within the band. So the next question we have is, what are some of the pros and cons of high school band?
So I think it's easy to think of like a con being that it's a lot of time, like a big time commitment. But there's a way to turn that into a pro. So you're going to be spending a lot of time with everybody in the organization, and that's going to put you in a community that you're going to feel comfortable in for all 4 years. And also it's a really great way for incoming freshmen to meet new people before high school starts. Like, the band is at the school 2 weeks before everybody else comes for actual classes, preparing for the season, teaching marching fundamentals and working on music and everything. So it's just really a place to kind of ease into high school a little bit, which is a big help when you're coming in from middle school and you really don't know what to expect. Or I know a lot of the middle schools that feed into Frisco feed into somewhere else too. So you might not be with the same people you've been with for 3 years, having to make new friends. It just makes it a lot easier to be put into an organization where, I wouldn't say you're handed friends, but you're given people that are sharing the same interests that creates a bond. So that's definitely a pro. I know the past 4 years have it's an awesome community to be a part of. Yeah. And you're all sharing a common interest and common goals.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think it was extremely easy to make friends, especially from like the second I entered band. There were just seniors. It's not even like there was no class or hierarchy of, oh, I'm a senior, so I shouldn't be talking to a freshman. It didn't ever feel like you couldn't talk to anyone. Everyone was always very welcoming, and it was extremely easy to make friends and connect with people. And I've had the same friend group for all 3 years so far, and I think you've had the same people for most of your high school career. So I think that's really interesting. At first I was concerned about being like a band nerd when I joined, but once I joined, I didn't really care because I sort of found my people that had the same interests, and none of us were gonna like make fun of each other in a way that was like degrading or condescending, and it was just a nice place to be overall, I think. So the next question we have here is, I'm thinking about quitting band. Should I stay in it? If so, why?
So it's kind of biased to, ask a person that's been in band for all 4 years of high school and 3 years before and is in a big leadership position to ask, should I stay in band? Obviously, I'm going to say yes. But as to why, like I said before, it's an awesome community to be a part of. It's the biggest organization on campus. So there's a lot of big opportunities for you and a lot of people to meet and just like a place to feel welcome. If you're contemplating because you want to do something else like sports or theater or choir, orchestra, blah, 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 I would say at least try it for a semester, if not a year. I was on the Stars dance team for 2 years, and it was a perfect balance. Like, I was able to get the most out of both organizations without missing out on anything. And the only reason I stopped doing that was because I wanted to be in a bigger leadership role in the band. So we also have a bunch of people. We have a current football player. We've had a football player for all 4 years. Volleyball, basketball, soccer, track, cross country, golf, theater. We have a lot of theater kids in band. A couple choir kids. Every organization that is also at Frisco, we probably have a band kid in it. So if you're worried about not having enough time to do both, the directors and all of the coaches are super understanding and really like adamant about working with you to make it happen. So if that's your reason for quitting, I think you should at least try a year of doing both.
Yeah, no. So I actually quit band after my 5th year, and I know Olivia's so bummed about this, but I actually ended up quitting band for theater because the industry I wanted to go in was the film industry, and so my thought process was hopefully I could learn a lot more about directing and how the process sort of works by joining theater. And the reason I quit band rather than doing both is because of the time commitment. So for me and my family, school has always been like top priority at all times. And I know it's not the case for everyone, but so for me, I was joining theater coming into my junior year, which everyone knows is the best year, Homework is always piling up every day. You're sleeping late. So I think being in band and theater would have been kind of difficult in the sense that having rehearsals for both and needing to skip out on some rehearsals when they overlap, and so then you need to make up that time afterwards on your own time, it would become really difficult for me to keep up. But if you have good time management and you're committed to both and you know how to get your homework out and done fast but still produce good quality work, then I absolutely think that you should do both. Like you said, we've had kids be successful in both theater and band and football, band and basketball, doing all of these 2 extracurriculars. But one thing I don't think you should do is quit band and join nothing. Because one of the biggest ways that one of the easiest ways that I made friends was through extracurriculars, which would be band or theater, and I know people do it through choir, orchestra, football. Having that sense of community is really important, and if you're not a part of anything and the only place you're making friends is through your classes, to me it would become significantly more difficult to create almost a family in the sense. But I know that at any point I could call up anyone in band and be like, hey, I need your help, and they would be at my door. So I think having that sense of community is extremely important. So
Yeah, I think if you're just not sure about it, try it for a year. Like, give it a try, and if you're still not, I think a lot of people go into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to do it for a year and then I'm going to quit. But then after a year, you're like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. even if it's just for high school, but you want to have that sense of home and family, it could easily change your mind.
Yeah, even like on top of marching band and all of the time commitment, like you're saying, the friends that you make are just truly amazing. So I think getting to spend so much time with them is just an amazing thing. So the next question we have is, what made you successful in band compared to some of the others? So I know you made all area, you were drum major of the band. So what made you what sort of separated you from some of the other students in band to put you towards the top?
I think just the commitment that I had, and like I had like kind of a confidence that I would be able to do something. So when I was going into, I made all region last year. This year I got all region, all area. So last year when I made all region, I had in my mind already, okay, next year, next step, right? I'm going to make it to area. So if you go into something and you're not confident in yourself, that's where you're gonna see a lack of results. But if you go in with confidence and commitment, you're gonna have a backbone to get the results that you want. So I spent a lot of time, like I said, this is what I want to do in the future. So I'm going to college for music education next semester. So it might just be because like I'm super interested in music and everything, but I know people that aren't doing music in college at all, but can make it to all area or all state. But that's just because they have the commitment to get there. So spending time practicing on your own, spending time learning your music, everything like that, really.
Right.
And then as far as drum major goes, like I realized after a couple of years, I was like, oh, this would be really cool to do because I like being a leader to other people and like helping other people get to where I have been or where I want to go. So from there, I again committed to learning how to conduct and like writing all my essays and being ready for if I were to be put in that spot.
Right.
And I went into drum major tryouts auditions thinking like you can't sit there and think like, oh, what if I don't make it? You need to have the mindset of this is where I'm going so that you have the motivation to get there.
Right. I think one thing I realized is that confidence comes with competence. So it's significantly easier to be confident if you know your stuff. So if you go into a region room and you haven't even touched your music, it's going to be significantly more difficult to be confident because you haven't practiced, right? But if you practice, put in the hours, like the confidence sort of comes with that. And so that's what I realized. In 7th grade, I didn't make region, and I was so bummed about it. And, you know, like I was crying. I was just miserable. I was like, I wanted it so bad. But then I looked back, and I was like, I didn't really want it. I didn't practice at all, you know. I would only put in the bare minimum hours just to say that I did something. But I would never, like, go above and beyond. And then in 8th grade, I was like, you know what, I don't want to do that again. So I put in the hours. I put in the time, put in the effort, and then in 8th grade, I got first chair in the whole region. So I don't think you should ever be discouraged to say, like, oh, I didn't make a region this year. You know, I think, like you were saying, you can always take steps up, even if they're slow. You know, you have 4 years of high school band. Even if you don't make region the first year, you can make it the second, the third, the fourth year. You know, you have time to put in practice hours. And so I don't think you should ever give up or be discouraged because of that.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to like taking a test in any core class. Like take a test in a math class and you fail and you're like, oh my gosh, why'd I fail? But then you look back at your notes and you didn't do any of the homework. So, but then the next unit, you do all the homework and then you get an A. So it's kind of like a chain reaction type thing.
Exactly. So that was the final question. So that is all we have today for the Kids Teaching Kids podcast. I hope you did learn something new today. And if you do have any more questions related to band, please let us know and we'll make sure to answer them. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day.